Well, it is the end of the first week of the summer split. I'm joined right now by Steve, who's the owner of Team Liquid, operator. I don't know what your title is these days.
Co-CEO.
Co-CEO. There we go. Now, I do want to talk to you a lot about the franchising stuff, permanent partnership, whatever you want to call it. But obviously, your team is also a topic of pretty big conversation right now. So a lot of people were surprised by the decision to not make dramatic changes or to stay with a similar roster. Um, you know, we saw obviously the statement that came out, but is there anything else that you'd like to add to any of that?
You know, our decision to make roster changes is something that's predicated on the available inventory between splits versus postseason.
Sure.
And so if you think about, okay, if we've got, let's say, X millions of dollars available in order to improve the roster, is that better allocated on whatever available inventory is currently between splits, or do you wait until the split is over, or the season's over? And so that was a big factor in what we wanted to do. We didn't want to just sign somebody for one split, and there really there aren't that many players that are available in between. The first split and the second. Almost all players sign contracts for at least a year.
Right.
So that's one reason. The other is just really identifying what the mistakes are that the team's making. So I know that there's a lot of folks that are saying that we're putting so much emphasis on mid lane, like mid lane is our only problem. Absolutely, it's not. Like, we have many issues that are apparent from these two games that we need to identify. So, we need to talk about them. Problem number one is maybe, this and 2 and 3 and 4, and then we fix them and we move on. The thing is that Team Liquid has been an organization and prior curse where we were consistently fourth in a very competitive split, and we managed to place third and then end up getting fourth because we didn't go to Worlds. But we've consistently produced results, and this is the first season that we're really struggling. And so we're going to turn that around, and we'll make really significant investments postseason.
So the golden glue thing in particular is very unusual to me, and I hate saying this because he's such a nice guy, right? Like,
Awesome dude.
so much easier if he was just like a jerk, but he consistently, like, the amount of times I think that we've all heard he's doing great in scrims, things are going to be fantastic, and then we see him go up on stage and disappoint, and I feel like, again, that same statement was made. Like, you guys felt as though he came back from Korea, things were really looking good, and you guys had a lot of commitment to him. It seemed like, based on yesterday's match, like, we were just kind of back to the way things were. What was it that, despite the amount of times that we've seen him underperform on stage, made you feel like it's still okay to bring him back?
It's tough because that confidence that you're talking about comes from working in scrims and watching him do extremely well. Gold advantages, winning matchups that he shouldn't, greatest damage and output on team fights, comments from the other teams that were scrimming that Golden is playing out of his mind, he's so good, getting requests from other teams just because they want to play against Golden. I mean, you come from a series of going 5 or 6 days practicing with that mindset, and that's happening in scrims, and then it doesn't translate into LCS, and it sucks. Like, yeah. I'm taken to a bit of a quandary because I feel like I'm not sure I have the solution to figure that out. Right. We've tried a mental coach. We've tried working with sports psychologists. We have started to rethink how we do our training and scrims, new coaches, and it's not translating. So what more do you do to quell the nerves and make something translate from scrims to LCS? And I'm a bit, I don't know if I have the answer to fix that.
Now we can kind of transition into the permanent partnership stuff, because the next question is kind of a bridge between these two topics. Are you at all concerned that, a really rough year right now, at a time when Riot is trying to decide, and they've put such an emphasis on, we're looking for people who can field competitive teams and who can be strong in the LCS and who really know what it takes to compete here. are you concerned at all that per performance, this split combined with the split might damage your ability to make it into the permanent partnership next year?
The way that I see it is that this split, this past split, and this current split that we're playing in now is a small page in a book with many chapters, right. And that started 6 years ago when I was playing as a competitive player, and then we produced results, and we've had the kind of hallmark moments in the LCS. We were like the first team to bring in an import from another country. We were the first team to do a green card, the first team to do an O1 visa. We were the first team to consistently place so we've had all of these moments where we've done really great things for the health of the league and also field competitive teams. Just now we signed an office lease. We're the first team to have a full functioning esports facility where we'll have all of our training for all of our teams and players. So, I am fully confident that we have produced and shown that we provide a great value to the league. Yeah. In terms of importing talent and cultivating talent. And I think it was funny. I was doing an interview, and somebody asked me, "Oh, well, do you know how many players that are currently in the LCS that are North American have been under your organization at one point?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea." He's like, 33%. I was like, "Holy shit!" Right. Like So our contributions have been great and vast, and I think that outmeasures what might happen in a split.
Sure. Now, going even further into the permanent partnership discussion, one of the things that was most striking to me about the information that Riot released was how deep the revenue sharing model will work, where people who are creating revenue off of anything league driven, either sponsorship or merchandise or whatever, will share that back in. Team Liquid stands among, in my mind at least, the CLGs, the TSMs, the Cloud9s that have a huge draw, right? And not to be too mean to these guys, but at the start of the day, I was looking at the P1 and Envy stream, and on Twitch there were about like 5,000 people watching it, whereas you had the TSM Immortals game that was dramatically higher, right? Like around 150 or something. Certainly, there's YouTube numbers and all that as well, but. And then your guys' match, I think, had 80,000 people watching it end of the day.
I think our promotion relegation match had the highest for our challenger game.
Sure. So, but to that point, right? Like, are you concerned at all that there's a chance where like the top teams might be sharing either with these other teams that haven't really proven their ability to succeed in the LCS by different methods, not just like on the competitive level, or either that or with brand new teams that like might be showing up with no idea how to sell sponsorships or no idea how to sell merch?
While I obviously want Team Liquid to do really well and prosper in the LCS, and if I were to say, what if TL was winning first place for 5 years in a row? If all I cared about was TL and how we performed, that would be completely short-sighted, right? Because this is a ecosystem, a league that is only going to do well if people watch as many games as possible, as long as possible, so they can sell advertising and can drive money and it can be sustainable. And you don't want the top teams battling it out over and over and over. It becomes stale. You lose the narrative, the storyline. And I think for a healthy ecosystem, that's why franchise makes so much sense, is because you distribute the wealth in a way where teams have an opportunity in a more level playing field to compete against each other, and you get better games. You want to watch the game between MV and P1, right? Because there's some star players on there that have really shined. And I think that's one of the benefits of franchise, that you create a better overall league in its entirety rather than just a particular game or two.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've talked about this before. I think Team Liquid as an organization might be the biggest esports organization. You guys have games, or you have teams in all sorts of different games, players in all sorts of different games. How concerned are you about this kind of world where, Riot will have to be going through your books, or third parties at least, to sort of figure out okay, this amount of money was from the league team and this amount of money wasn't? It's kind of a really complicated situation for a team or an organization like Team Liquid.
Yeah. Team Liquid is a multifaceted esports organization. We represent 10 different games. We've got one of the best Dota teams in the world. We have one of the best smashers in the world, Hungrybox. We have one of the best Street Fighter players in the world. We have one of the top heroes of the Storm teams in the world.
You just get the league stuff figured out.
If I could just get this league stuff figured out, exactly. We are doing really well. Like our CS:GO team, actually, at the ESL Pro League, we second team now to ever make it to semifinals of a CS:GO event. So we have success, and we have sponsors that pay and partners that that work with us that care about all of those other esports teams, not just League of Legends. So, while it may be complicated accounting exercise to figure that out, it's doable. Yeah. It's not impossible, right? And as far as transparency with regards to our revenue and expenses for the benefit of the LCS, absolutely, of course we'll do that. Yeah. That's not an issue either. So I don't see it as a big problem. I think it's just complexity that can be overcome pretty easily.
It was kind of shocking to me to see the 180 from where I felt like the league teams were standing at the end of summer split last year, or even in the fall, in terms of like their relationship with Riot, versus now. I expected, especially with some of this franchise stuff that is coming out, like the revenue sharing from the teams into the pot and all that stuff, to be more controversial with the owners. But it seems like you guys are actually completely on board with everything. I mean, are there any frustrations you have with any of the announcements or any of the direction they're headed? Or, I mean, at the very least, how did you get to this point?
I believe that in order to have a successful league, you need to have aligned interests from the major parties that are going into an investment. So if you and I were to start a lemonade stand and you produce lemons and I had the marketing, and like we partner up together, sure. We share those and complement each other, and we run a business. And so that's what needs to happen in order for the league to be successful. And that's an alignment between players, teams, and Riot. And if you have one party that has a lion's share of the vested interest in a particular investment, so let's say you receive 90% of all the revenue from the lemons that you produce, right. I may not want to provide the marketing anymore, right? And so it's where it's all makes sense. Yeah. And those terms are kind of Henry Clay's compromise. You gotta like get in there and get into the details and figure it out. And I think Riot did a phenomenal job in evaluating all of those interests and perspectives, and to come up with something where, hey, there's some skin in the game for teams. There's some skin in the game for us from spending X millions of dollars on production, and we're going to build this together, and we're going to come up with something that really does show that we have aligned financial interests. And it's so easy to say that, but it's very different than, Riot coming out and saying, oh, well, we're going to charge $10 million for the LCS when they could have, sold those spots for triple, quadruple that. Yeah. So that in and of itself makes a statement that we care about this kind of aligned financial interest.
So, okay, let's just say that it seems like you guys are much more aligned on interests and understanding of each other's positions than you were before. And you kind of think about it as like two different sides, right? And you guys have to figure out a way to meet up. Did Riot mostly come towards you guys and the demands that you guys were looking for, the interests that you were looking for from their end? Or was it kind of like a meet in the middle, in terms of this kind of compromise that you guys are fighting?
I wouldn't say that there was any fighting, so to speak. I think it was more Riot asking questions of the team owners. What are the things that are really important to you in a franchise-like system? And for us to have the venue and the opportunity to describe those, and for those to possibly be listened to and then constructed into the architecture of a franchise. Yeah. And not all developers or third-party tournament organizers take that approach. And I would actually say that almost all don't. Right. So if you're listening and then you actually come out with a plan that is in respect to those opinions and thoughts, then it's more of a collaboration. So I wouldn't say it was like the kind of negotiation where it's like terms are sent and then terms are sent the other way and the contract's redline. Like it wasn't anything like that. It was more, okay, what's important to you, what's important to us, what's important to the players, and let's try to construct something. It's like building a sculpture together. You know, that's the approach that I felt was taken.
6 months ago, I kind of had this feeling, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that where the owners and the teams were kind of like, hey, right, we're really not making that much money off of this stuff, and our costs are going up, and like this is really hectic. And Riot's like, oh, come on, like we see the numbers going up, everything's great, like your valuations are going up, you guys are selling equity, it's like great. And so you know, one of the most fascinating things that I heard whenever I talked to Waylon and Jared, along with a couple of the owners, was that there was kind of an opening of books on the team side where it's like, hey, right, no, look, this is actually what's going on here. This is actually how these things are affecting us. Here are our concerns based on these projections or whatever. I'm kind of curious if you have anything to share on how that went down, and also, do you think Riot was at all surprised by what they found, you know, from the team side in terms of costs and finances and all that?
I mean, I can't speak to how Riot felt on looking at other teams' books. I have no idea. But, I mean, I can say that we were happy to be transparent with Riot. And, you know, it's not an easy decision to just make, but we thought for the health of the architecture of the potential league that it was in our best interest and also the league's best interest to just share whatever information we needed to. And so we did that.
All right, so you said you're pretty confident you're going to make it in. I'm kind of curious, maybe an unfair question, but a fun question at least. How confident are you that we're going to see certain teams drop out of this, or that Riot will pick up different partners? Because I think ultimately the fans might care a little bit about the business side of this, but I think the majority is like, am I going to see, like, is CLG just going to be gone next year? Like, or I just started getting attached to this Phoenix 1 team. Like, are they going to be around? Or Team Liquid, like, they were cool before, now they kind of suck. Like, are they going to be, you know, like, how concerned do you think fans should be that certain teams are going to disappear?
You know, I think Riot has a very tough series of decisions to make. And I think that the start of that will be predicated on the pool of applications that are received by Riot and the strength of those applications and some of the weight behind certain aspects of future plans within each of the organizations. And I think through that like evaluation exercise, I trust that Riot will use proper judgment to determine what teams will produce the best kind of content for North American LCS viewers. Because at the end of the day, you're putting on a show. It's like creating Game of Thrones. Like that's what we're doing here.
It's all scripted, is what you're telling me.
No, it's not all, it seems that way.
You guys are going to have a triumphant entrance into Worlds at the end.
I mean, if we play fourth, I might be happy. So I'm hoping for the script at this point. No, but on a serious note, I think it's a content play. And you're creating a piece of content, and you want that content to be really, really good. And so what partners are going to create really, really good content? And I think that's what, at the end of the day, will drive viewership and engagement and a lot of fans at the grassroots level and on the digital side as well. So I think it's just a tough decision, you know? But I'm confident based on the folks at Riot and the mindset and the kind of people that they are that they'll make the right decisions.
I just think they are going to have the toughest time making these decisions because I think they are going to get so many applications from so many really notable people. Like, are you going to turn down, you know, like a Steve Ballmer if he decides to get in, or, you know, just like some of the like more sports owners, you know, people from like if Elon Musk wants to get into your league and you're like looking at them, Elon versus CLG, like how do you? It just seems like it's going to be very difficult, right? And that's kind of the fascination. Well, it's almost like a scared fascination on my end on like how they're going to approach this.
It's there's pros and cons with everything, right? So let's use the Elon Musk example, right? He's got a lot of shit going on. he has other vested business interests.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about the Science Council anymore for the White House, right? So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I've been
He's
following
got
him
some
on
free
Twitter.
time just opened up, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, the weakness of a particular application like that might be, well, what does Elon Musk care about? The League of Legends team in North America, and how much time is really allocated from his schedule to focus on that. And it's the same kind of exercise that we would go through when selecting like a PR firm. Like, should we go with a big name PR firm that has like 500 clients, or do we want to go with like a boutique agency that's just like 2 people here in LA that really love what they're doing and then work super hard? Like, just because you go with a particular name because they have really deep pockets or because they've been successful in other lines of business doesn't mean that they will be successful in running an esports League of Legends team in North America. And so that's therein lies a lot of the questions. And so you have to really dig in and find out, what are the motivations of these owners? What, kind of financial capabilities do they have? What kind of plans do they have? How creative are they thinking about the production of the LCS? Sure. What kind of partners are they going to be? You can go into business with somebody. You want to go into business with people you like and that you're going to create great things with. And so all of these things, and you kind of vary. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to speak for Riot, which they're just going to have to make a very tough decision, series of decisions.
Is the best case scenario Elon Musk takes a 51% stake in CLG, and then you get to keep CLG and Elon Musk?
That's another thing, is that we've got great partners in Axiomatic, which are Peter Guber and Ted Leonsis, and that's the Golden State Warriors and the Wizards and the Capitals, and a number of other very, very smart folks that make up our ownership group. And it's that partnership and also that access to capital that kind of solves some of the questions that may come up. But yeah, absolutely. Teams will partner. Teams may sell portions of their equity in order to raise the necessary capital to participate in the franchise and also execute on whatever plans they may have. So I think that's just that's part of what will kind of pan out over the next 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I think that's as good a place as any to wrap up the interview. Is there anything you want to say to the Team Liquid fans that right now are just after this first weekend questioning? They're looking at their Reddit flare right now, and they're comparing that to the TSM or Immortals flare.
Don't change it. Okay. I know it's been really rough for these first 2 weeks, but we will turn this around. We will identify what our weaknesses are, and we will fix them. And most importantly, I am all over this. I'm on top of this. Please have confidence. We'll turn this around. And thanks for being a fan.
Thank you so much for the interview. I really appreciate it. Fascinating to learn both on what's been going on the Team Liquid on the game side, on the team side, as well as your thoughts on the business stuff that's unfolding right now. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of our coverage of all things esports here at Yahoo Esports.